flight parts, bitch, you know, for sure. You're not listening to the Mind of an Terry's Moon. Dolo the Archangel Uriel. I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. Alright, now look. Your dreams is so important in so many different ways that you need to understand this. Your dreams is very important. Now, here's why. Because in the physical realm and the external realm, this is the place and location that you live in, that you can realize in a dimension. But see, your the yin realm, this is the yang realm, this is the external realm. But the internal realm is dimensionless. So it's like that's when you leave your body, you leave your brain, and you're just your mind, which your mind is the link between your brain and your soul, your physical brain and your soul and your spirit. Now your soul and your spirit is the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Your spirit becomes a soul the moment it starts experiencing its time of events, its timeline, its realm of reality. When it goes into something and it can have movement, motion, and emotion. But that's when your spirit becomes a soul. But when you sleep, you go into the internal realm. So you off the bat leave the external realm, and in the yin realm, which is the internal realm, is dimensionless. Now, the only reason it got color, shape, a location, and an area, and a point of reference, the only reason all that have a look to it, a consciousness awareness to it, is because you're painting that with your brain is consciously aware of. So whatever physical vessel you inhabit, however that world appear in that dimension, like you in the third dimension right now, so you inhabit a third dimensional vessel. So however the world you're in perceived to be from a third dimensional perception, brain, then when you sleep and go back to the yin realm, the internal realm, that's how the world is going to appear to look. But your spirit knows that it's in the yin realm. You get what I'm saying? So it's dimensionless. So you could be in any dimension, but all the dimensions look like the dimension that best can perceive from whatever vessel is linked to your soul. So, for an example, your spirit is linked to a third dimensional vessel. So when you dream, you go through all the dimensions, but all the dimensions look like the dimension that you're consciously woke in, which is the vessel that you inhabit. And since it's a third dimensional vessel, your dreams is going to appear to look like this, but you can do a bunch of things in that world that you wouldn't be able to do if you was woke, because you could be in the ninth dimension when you sleep, but the ninth dimension it'll appear like the third dimension, but you'll be doing a bunch of ninth dimensional shit there, because you have to understand heaven and hell, all the dimensions is in the same place. It's not a place you go. It's all in the same place. So it's just based upon perception. You could be having this perception down here, this perception, this perception, this perception, this perception, and each perception is a dimension. It's a higher outlook or a lower outlook, or on the totality of what you're in general. So you see what I'm saying? So vibrating is how you know how you can reach certain dimensions. When you vibrate low, you're vibrating in the lower dimensions. When you vibrate high, you're vibrating in the higher dimensions. This is why you can say you're excited or upset and you don't know why, because you must be vibrating in a dimension that doesn't perceive the third dimension. This is why you get things like you can experience love, happiness, and things of that nature before a physical thing in front of you make you happy or sad. So that means you access a higher dimension and you experience in that higher dimension in this dimension. But so many people tie all their existence into the dimension, into the physical that they into. They get confused to the point that they need the things in that dimension in order to feel things from higher dimensions. So, for an example, you got things like drugs. Drugs is a physical form of a higher dimension. So instead of just tapping into the higher dimension naturally, you need that physical thing from that higher dimension in order for you to have that gateway again and that access to that higher dimension or to that lower dimension or whatever dimension it is. So everything in a dimension that you're in can be utilized as a tool to tap you into other dimensions. But the moment you solely put the responsibility on that thing in a dimension to take you to another dimension, the moment you lose perspective of dimensions in general. Now, what you have to understand is when you're dreaming, since it's dimensionless, to know where you live at in the astral plane, to know where your star at in the space realm, to know what dream that you always have. Now, you always going to have an occurrent dream. It's when you experience other type of dreams, that's because you start experiencing other people's timelines, and you may be a person who get used as a vessel commonly, so you constantly having different type of dreams. But for the most part, when you're dreaming, the common dream there's a place that you usually go to, and it's a location. Now, it may look like a place that's in 3D, but say it may be a school, it may be a store, it's always going to be a specific place in your dream that always you will currently go to. You currently go to always. Now, start to analyze what location that is, like what it is. Is it a say it's a store? Think about what kind of store it is, what you're constantly looking for in the store, what the store consists of, and start breaking down the colors and everything. Start breaking down. This is going to tell you the frequency vibration of the space you live in the astral plane. So wherever your star is at, and then when you awake that body and transform out of this one, and then your conscious dust go into that one, and we awaken that one, then you're born there. But you're there now too. This telling you what space and location you in. Because you always in a space. That's just like when someone say, I ain't from here. Really believe them. The people who from here is people who don't even care about that nonsense or kind of talk. They don't never talk about they from somewhere else or nothing like that. They always talking about the here and now. So that's an example of a person who's from here. A person who's always constantly saying, man, I ain't from here. Oh, I'm from a different space. I don't want to absorb myself in these people's space or these people vibrations, these people vibe. Why do you think you say that? You get everything from where you're from. So it's like when you dream, your spirit and soul is always gonna go to where it's familiar at. So your spirit and soul, that's your star up there. So think about where you at. For an example, I say like I'm always in a school, then I'm always in like a auditorium or something like that, or I'm in different locations, but I'm always at a school. So what I would think about is, okay, how does school make me feel? What am I always doing in this school? What do I always feel like when I'm doing these specific things? What am I always interacting with? Then once I look at all those things, I look at, okay, what is the color of the things I'm interacting with? How many of it? Because that'll tell me what number, what numerology of it, the numerology of it. How many times or how much of this is that keep occurring, and I keep trying to do the same thing, right? And then start to understand the circumstance and situation. Okay, what's going on? And then once I understand the totality of that vibration, that let me know where I'm at in the astral plane. That let me know that, okay, that's the space that my star is in the astral plane. That specific space, or by man, this is the frequency that is vibrating in. This is all the frequency vibrations that is in. So these is everything that I need to learn. This is everything that I may need to come to grips with, things I may need to realize, everything involved around that. Now remind you, in the astral plane, a school, how it look in the third dimension, may not even be a school, or may not even appear to be that same thing in a higher dimension. But it's the same energy. For an example, we could do something in this dimension. You got people in the 80s and in the 80s and the early 90s smoking crack, right? Now, you might think crack ain't big now. Nah, it's that same energy exists now, just in something else. It might be a Percocet or something like that, or codeine drink. You know what I'm saying? So whatever, it might have took a different shape and form in this decade. It might have looked different, taste different, been something different, but it was the same energetic force. You may have even had a different type of high. But that whole energetic force of you need to take this to get to a different type of high, that energetic force itself, that's what it is. So it's just that energetic force being in a new shape and form now, and being brought in a new way now. But it's the same energetic force. So you can look at it like in your dream is going to appear how it looks in whatever dimensional vessel brain that you're in, but what it actually is ain't the point. The energy vibration of it is what's the point. So that same energy vibration may take a different shape and form in many different realms of realities, but it's going to be the same energy sigil. This is what I be meaning by language and things of that nature. When you will argue with a Christian or someone, they'll be like, you can't say that. You already don't make sense because you're conflating. You're trying to say the SON is the same as the SUN, and that's your first mistake. When you have to tell them, no, that's their first mistake. Everything is the same frequency. And once you understand that, something can mean the same thing, but just it comes to you in different ways. Like, okay, like jail, male, hell. You'll look at that and like, that's three different things. No, they're the same thing, just in different dimensions. So a male is something that your name is trapped and concealed in, and you're like a slave to that name. So when you receive male, 9 times out of 10, it's a male reminding you of what you're in. And the only reason you're in it is because you agree to the terms and the conditions of your name that's conflated with it. But a male, boom, that's a male. A cell is something the same thing. It's something you're in. A battery cell, something you're in. A jail cell, something you're in. You see what I'm saying? That's just it in another dimension. Hell, that's just something you're trapped in. Something you're concealed in. It's just that on another dimension. It's just all the same things on a different dimension. So when you look at language and letters, you can look at it like this. Male has more letters than hell. So that means male has more to it. It's added more to it. It's more things added to it. So it's in density. So it's brought down into a lower dimension. So male could mean more things than hell can mean. But it's still the same thing. It's just lower in density. So you could physically receive a male. You see what I'm saying? You can see physically what you're wrapped up in. You see what I'm saying? Because it's male is anything that's added more is lower into density. So you can see it in lower dimensions. And since you're in the third dimension, you're in a low dimension. A male is a version of hell that you can see physically in your dimension. See what I'm saying? But it's still the same thing. You see what I'm saying? You get it? So in a higher dimension, if I lived in a higher dimension and I was looking down on y'all and y'all received some mail, you don't think nothing of it. But I come down here and be like, man, you in hell. Just because you receive mail. And you would look at me like I'm crazy. But I lived in a higher dimension. I had a higher dimensional person's brain. In the 7th dimension, that's how we look at it. Just the simple fact that and then in the 3rd dimension, you got to look at it like, how is he saying I'm in hell just because I received mail? I would have to break it down to you that, okay, first of all, you got a name. You agree to the terms and conditions of a name that somebody gave you. This name is obligated and backed and supported, and it's in something. It's in some type of withdrawal. It's in some type of system, right? And then the system depends on your name. So this name is going to be utilized for, and it's going to make you have to do certain labor, certain terms and conditions. So with your ID and social security card, you need that to even have a job. What's a job? Labor, slave. You need that to do anything. You see what I'm saying? To get any kind of loan, anything. So you're in something. So regardless of your illusion and light that you up under and the excuses that you want to make upon it, like, I got to do this because of this. I got to do this. Whatever illusion is in is something that you're in. It's a hell. No matter how you weigh, shape, form, and look at it. Now, since the physical hell and your concepts and ideas that you choose to put behind it because you being a human, that's solely your fault and your responsibility. But I'm just telling you, it is what it is. You in a hell. The moment I see a human that's not obligated to no terms and conditions and no ties, they don't receive no mail or nothing like that. Boom. That's a sign of being out of a hell. But who does that in the 3rd dimension? You see what I'm saying? So just so many realms of realities that you got to understand and proceed to. and get an understanding, and then you'll start to see where you live in the astral plane as far as your spirit, as far as your when you dream. So, based upon a location, say you always in fear, you must be always vibrating on a lower chakra, vibrating in a lower area, in a lower head. You see what I'm saying? Flight boss, bitch. I gotta get up out of here.